Hello and welcome to the Oddschecker betting show. This is your second Dublin Racing Festival preview. We are previewing the Sunday of racing at Leopardstown. I'm your host, George Elek. I'm delighted to be joined yet again, as I was yesterday, by Andy Holding. But this time we managed to snaffle Johnny Ward to join him as well. Johnny, you couldn't join us for day one. Andy doesn't know where you were. I think he'll be quite jealous when you tell him, though, where you were on Tuesday night.
I was in Anfield. It was a Liverpool v Chelsea, so because of my climate change ambitions and the fact that flights were extremely expensive, I ended up getting the boat over, which was an interesting experience. So we spent much of the time in the Irish Sea, got to Liverpool eventually. It's an amazing city, Liverpool. It feels almost like half Irish to me, if not 3/4 Irish. Watched the game. Liverpool established their credentials further in terms of the champions race, obviously, and we're looking at this kid that's playing right back, who's declared for Northern Ireland and should be declared for the Republic. So there's a lot going on.
And also made his name playing in the EFL for Bolton last season. You missed out there, Johnny. And I can't believe I didn't ask you this yesterday, but now Johnny's here. Maybe it's about a time. Jurgen Klopp. Can't believe it.
Yeah. It's going to take a while to adjust to that, really, because without Klopp there, you just hope that Liverpool don't go down the same way that Man United did once Fergie left. You always felt once Fergie went that the whole thing would fall like a pack of cards, and
still falling.
Still falling, exactly. Yeah, and it's going to take a brave man to jump into his shoes, isn't it? Almost hard, very, very hard act to follow. Yes, the club's in great state, and the youth are coming through, as Johnny mentioned. It's a fantastic setup. They couldn't be in a better position, but to play a different style of football and to have that kind of aura and sort of like father figure on the touchline, like Jurgen Klopp is to many of those young lads, to not have that there, it'll take a lot of adjusting to with some of the players. So it'll be an interesting season next year, and whoever they get.
Who do you want?
Well, I think someone who knows the club and the fans can relate to as well. I think that's very important with Liverpool. You'd have to make Xabi Alonso favourite on all fronts, really. He was very much respected as a player, as someone who came back and played in testimonials and stuff like that. He always got an amazing reception. He's obviously doing really well as a manager, unlike Steven Gerrard at the moment. So he does tick a lot of boxes, I must admit.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry to those of you out there who don't care about football. We'll move on now, but can't
Liverpool.
we can't. Well, I think all football fans are surely interested in Andy Holding's thoughts on who should be manager after Jurgen Klopp. And I should just mention, because we spoke about it, Xabi Alonso is the 4-5 favourite. You can find the prices up on the Oddschecker grid as well. That's for Bet Victor, as short as 2-1 elsewhere, with Roberto De Zerbi, the second favourite, at 8-1. But let's get into the racing. We did kind of the pleasantries last time around. Hopefully Dan's had a safe trip over the Irish Sea and enjoys the racing over the course of this weekend. But we'll start with the 1240, which is the Mayor's Handicap Hurdle over 2 miles and 2 furlongs. Before we get into it, as ever, do download the Oddschecker app, where you can find the best prices, bookie offers, free bets, place terms, and Andy, amongst other tips straight to the app every single morning. The Foxy Girl is the 130 favourite here, ahead of Risk Bell at 4-1. Feet of a Dancer 6-1. She could be anything 17-2. Splashing Out 9-1. And we'll stop there. 14-1 Bath. Because Splashing Out, Johnny, you're away this weekend taking your missus out for her birthday. So you are splashing out as it stands, sitting in your cosy hotel room. But who do you fancy in the first?
Yes, indeed. Some you may recognise the hotel. It does have kind of racing connections, but Splashing Out is a horse that I've actually been kind of following. I backed this horse at Limerick. I was actually away in England that day as well. I might have been working for Oddschecker. I was in I seem to recall watching it from the airport, where this young kid called Peter Smithers rode to victory, and then obviously turned up again at Limerick, was touched off at Evans' favourite by Starman, who's been a great servant for connection since being claimed. I'm interested if Andy finds this any easier than I did. I thought this race was desperately tough. It's the first race, obviously, on day 2. The ground will have dried out a bit here. You've got practically a full field, give or take, and there's going to be a lot of kind of bad luck in running stories in this race. Last year there was one such bad luck story where Risk Bell was sent off favourite and didn't get very far. She's the most obvious one for me. She was maybe a shade disappointed behind Jatara the last day. I think she's better over this type of trip. I don't think she really was in love with the stamina test there. And when I know she's gone up since she ran in the race last year, but she was third in the Fred Winter as well. She's very, very solid. When she beat Nuzzer at the time before that, and Hypotenuse, that was a very, very good performance. She kind of the odd issue jumping wise, but she's still only just turned 5. She has upside. She represents Willie Mullins, who obviously wants to win this race for his dad. And JP McManus is strongly represented in the race. I would give a mention as well, just down at the bottom of the weights, to Sam Curling's horse, Idle. Sam's a very, very promising trainer. This is a mare by Jukebox Jory. She's quite a different profile to the horse I tipped, and she's very lightly raced. She was only making her handicap debut the last day at Punchestown. What I thought was significant was here, she was very well backed for a horse who had no handicap experience. And Sam's horses, win backs, generally you do actually, I know it's a cliche, but you do take notice. He's a very shrewd operator. She had run well behind Facile Mode at Punchestown prior to that and was relatively eye-catching, but was a bit of a revelation at Punchestown. And I'd be probably having a saver on her off 114, sixth place with Sky Bet, 20-1 as well. So her and Risk Bell for me, but not a big stakes event.
Yeah, Risk Bell, the main selection there, 4-1 pretty much across the board. And as Johnny says, 6 places. Sky Bet at the moment, given the most places. Andy, how do you see it?
Yeah, with a huge dollop amount of luck in running, I think, attached to this race, you're going to need like a bit of a thick-skin betting in it. I remember, I think it was a couple of years ago, a thing of Paul Nolan's got brought down, which might have been a saving grace because I think she then went on to win the Pertemps final, Mrs. Milner. And there's usually just general scrimmaging and bunching and running, with the big field here, all searching for room. I think Risk Bell is the most likely winner. If she gets the trip, I think she's probably better at 2 miles. She definitely didn't quite get the 2.5 behind Jatara, as Johnny said here last time, but she went well for a long way. That was a good race compared to this one. I know this is a handicap and she's got, her sort of fair share of weight, I suppose. But she's the class act in the field for me. I'd have to have her on my mind, considering she's the only representative of Willie Mullins, and the race, of course, is named after Patrick Mullins. So you'd imagine this has been targeted for a while. The other one I'd probably throw into the mix as well is a horse I've got a bit of a keen affection for, and that's Broomfield's Bijou. She was third to Hispanic Girl, I think it was, last time out at Fairy House, but she tried to make the running that day and went really, really hard on heavy ground. She looked like she was going to win, kicking off the home turn. She just didn't quite get home under the conditions that day. But she was good beyond the wall park the time before, went second in a top, strongly run race. She likes a big field. That's the thing about this horse. You look at all her best form, it's taken place in those big field handicaps when she won at Punchestown last year. But she's used to this kind of hustle and bustle. They've got for the cheek pieces for the first time. Not sure why they're on, but connections perhaps feel as though they might just sharpen her up here, there and everywhere, get her to concentrate when she hits the front. And at 14-1, I think she's probably the value outside the favourite. So I'd probably play 2 like Johnny has, that you've got to factor in Risk Bell, whichever way you strip this race down. And for me, the each way horse with the places on offer would be Broomfield Bijou.
Broomfield Bijou 14-1 currently, with Paddy Power, William Hill, Betfair Sportsbook, Bet Victor, Unibet, and a couple of other firms there too. So a couple to take on the field with, but both keen on the chances of Risk Bell. On to the second race on the card, the Novice Chase. Gaelic Warrior is 10-11 favourite, had a factor filed at 2-1. Grangeclare West is 11-2. American Mike 25-1. Founder 50. 50-1. Now, Andy, we spoke yesterday with Dan on the Saturday preview, the disappointment of not seeing the Titanic clash we hoped for on Saturday with Gaelic Warrior, but instead we have Gaelic Warrior versus Factor File. And in terms of prices, not a great deal between them, but given the way you spoke about Gaelic Warrior yesterday, I'm assuming you're taking the favourite here.
Yeah, and the sort of comments we made about Gaelic Warrior yesterday, without offending anyone, was more borne out into the fact that Connections set themselves up for a fall, really, but with their terminology saying that it was more than likely going to run in the 2-mile race. It wasn't the fact that they decided to duck it, or they are still running at the meeting. Let's give them plenty of credit for that. That wasn't the point. It was more the fact that they got everyone's hopes up more than anything and then dashed it. I think that's what I was getting at as a racing fan. We all wanted the best to take on the best, and they said they wanted to find out whether he was a 2-miler or not. So they're kind of like, it was their own words, not mine, if you like. So it was a bit disappointing. I don't know what Johnny felt about it, but I thought the whole episode could have been perhaps handled a bit better. But anyway, we have got Gaelic Warrior at the meeting, and fair play to Willie Mullins. Like I say, credit where credit's due. You know, he's chucked him in against his two best horses over their respective trips. Grangeclare West is ostensibly a 3-miler, more of an RSA horse or Brown Advisory horse. Back to 4, we don't know whether 3 miles is going to be E-Strip or whether he's a Turner's horse. And he's up against the best 2.5 mile horse either side of the RSC so far this season on the figures. That's Gaelic Warrior, who absolutely trotted up at Limerick last time out. Beat two very good horses in a spectacular time. The only issue with him, which has always been the case with him, and it'll be at Cheltenham regardless of how he gets on here, is his tendency to just jump out to the right. How pronounced that'll be down the back straight at Leopardstown, I don't know. It could well be that Paul Townend does what he often does here at Leopardstown, like he does on Galopin Shop. He tends to go out on the hair rail, so it kind of might negate Gaelic Warrior's tendencies to do that, which I think is certainly a better advantage here than it would be at Cheltenham, let's say, where there's wide open spaces to his right. So that could be a factor why he might not necessarily be so much of a negative here. I'd expect him to win just because I think he's, by far and away the quickest, the best horse, and the most the classiest. But at the same time, Factor Fall and Grangeclare West, they're no mug. So is this the best even money 10 to 11 chance you'll ever see in your life? Probably not. But either way, it's going to be exciting, and it'd be lovely to see the three of them, really serve it up.
Johnny, how do you see this?
Yeah, I'd have some sympathy for Willie Mullins here because I think he was being honest during the week, and he's probably not revealed exactly why things have changed, and that's fair enough. You have to keep your cards a bit close to your chest. Maybe indeed Pascal Vega did actually work very well in his quest to beat Marine Nationale, as he wasn't able over hurdles. But, it's testament to Willie's commitment to this festival that he's run 3 really good horses here, one potential superstar against each other. And this race for me now has become pretty much the race of day 2 and one of the races of the festival because of the 3 of them run against each other. And if you look at the map of Leopardstown, it's not. it was funny getting the train across country yesterday past Chester, and when I was passing Chester, I got a real feel for how undulating it is and how turning it is. Leopardstown's not quite like that, and if Gaelic Warriors is to get away with going sort of right-handed here, I think he's more likely to get away with it here than at Cheltenham. Now, what I'm fascinated by is Andy alluded to Paul Townend's tactics. Paul Townend at Leopardstown, the last, as he mentioned, taking kind of the long route around. He did actually the last day on Grangeclare West. He was quite wide much of the way, and Willie Mullins said afterwards, I'm not sure how he won. He pulled so hard for 3 miles. He didn't really pull that hard. I think he settled well, jumped extremely well. And I'm fascinated as to Patrick Mullins, what he's going to do riding Grangeclare West when he comes up. And if he's vying for the ascendancy with Gaelic Warrior, considering what happened at Limerick, where he's going to go coming to the last here. And the performance of Grangeclare West there, I think at 11-2, I'd have a small bet on him. I'm still worried about Gaelic Warrior, the extent that he will jump right. And as much as you might get away with it at Leopardstown, at the prices, this might be the day to take him on. He's been beaten twice at Cheltenham. He won a handicap at Leopardstown, fair enough, but this is a really good race. And just at the prices, this might be the day to take him on with a very good horse. And Factor File, who's like Miss That, has gone straight over fences. And I think Florida Pearl before him from his bumper days was exceptional the last day. But this is much, much tougher. And I think he's a value at the prices, Grangeclare West. That was a really astounding performance, I thought, the last day against good horse and Corbett's Cross. And in running's going to be fascinating here because the extent of the favourites jumping to the right is going to be intriguing, and what Paul Townend does as well, because he's going to be mindful of it.
Would you be backing Grangeclare West each way? Because you've got the 5 runners, so you're getting a quarter of the 2 with American Mike 25 to 1 and 50-50 to 1. So you run into the top 2, you're making profit. Yeah,
and to be honest, like that probably is a bit of a match. I couldn't have found a 50 the way he jumped the last day, and I know he's at a couple of kind of engagements this weekend as it is, so we'll see what happens there. He's obviously entered in the race tomorrow as well, but at the prices I'd have Grangeclare West ahead of Factor File, just in terms of I'm still have that kind of slight doubt about his performance behind American Mike in his season return. Maybe he needed to run a bit, but he was quite well beaten that day, and I think Grangeclare West is a very good horse. He probably wasn't quite as heralded since he was disappointed in the Lawlers as a novice hurdler, and maybe he disappointed a couple of times subsequently, but I can't knock his chase performances at all so far.
Lovely stuff. Yeah, in the we've got Grangeclare West 11-2 with basically every firm on the grid. A couple of firms go 5-1 Unibet and live score bet, but most firms there 11-2. Johnny's pick in the second. On to Novice Hurdle now, over 2 miles. Ballyburn is the even money favourite ahead of Farron Glory at 130. Slade Steel 8-1. King of Kingsfield 11-1. Daddy Longlegs 12-1. 20-1 bar those 8 runners. Andy, as it stands, who comes out on top of your figures as Ballyburn? The rightful even money favourite here, odds on with most.
No, he's not. There's a few Willie Mullins horses that are definitely priced up on reputation more than anything else at this meeting. We talked about the juvenile yesterday, Storm Heart, probably the worst value of the meeting at 6-4. And I'd have to say Ballyburn is probably hot on his heels, really, at even money. Let's just put it into context what he's done so far. Very good in his bumpers. Looks a 2.5 mile horse all day long. Looked a 2.5 mile horse all day long when he got outpaced by Firefox, who subsequently got beat quite readily in the Lawlers. And then he was good here when they stepped him up to 2.5 mile horse, and he beat horses who were just very, very one-paced, and obviously we're nowhere near graded level on that occasion. Look, I take on board that the second and the fourth have won out of that race at Leopardstown, so it probably does have a little bit more substance than it meets the eye. But look, the time figure wasn't anything special, and he has only won a maiden hurdle. He now goes into Grade 1 company, gets some good horses who set a really good standard and have clocked some really very, very good times. I just don't get why he's even money, and why Farron Glory, who's already won technically 2 Grade 1s, he won the Brawl Bond and he would have won at Aintree had he not fallen at the second last one, absolutely cantering, is 3 times the price. I think Farron Glory sets a really good standard. He's the one to beat for me. If Ballyburn beats him, then he's a real bona fide supreme horse. There's no doubt about it. I actually kind of like selfishly almost want Ballyburn to win in some respects, because I've put up Predator's Gold for the bar in Bingham, and I'm hoping that Ballyburn doesn't get beat here in some respects, and they think, oh yeah, he got out. He didn't have the speed of Farron Glory, and then they'll stick him back up into trip and run him in the bar in Bingham instead of Predator's Gold. I can't have it always, as it were. But I'm looking at this race at face value, playing on its merits, what they've done, how they're priced up, regardless of their future targets. And there's no way for me Farron Glory should be 130. And I've also got a sneaky suspicion that King of Kingsfield could run well here. He's one of those horses that, because he kept finishing second early on in his career, everyone thought he was a bit of a twicer, and he had a bit of a glass chin. But he was been ridden from the front early on in his career, and I don't think he wanted to be in front. The day when Slade Steel picked his pocket, I think it was at Nathan's early on in the season, he was very vulnerable to a finisher that day. And he come there absolutely cantering in the Royal Bond, went to the front again that day, and just got outrun by his starboard companion. But they held on to him last time out here, and they delivered him at the last, and he found a really smart turn of foot that day to win. And I think he's all about speed, King of Kingsfield. Again, I think for him, maybe the target might not necessarily be one of the graded races at Cheltenham. Off a mark of 140, he could strike me as being a county hurdle horse because of his cruising speed and his turn of foot. But again, that's for another day. But he's overpriced here at 11-1. So I'd probably put back the 2 Gordon Elliott horses here. I think Farron Glory is overpriced, and I think King of Kingsfield consistently keeps getting underestimated when he shouldn't be.
130 Farron Glory, that's best price with William Hill, standout best price as well. 11-1 with Hills, and 365 about King of Kingsfield. So 2 strong ones there from Andy, the 2 Elliott horses. Johnny, were you surprised to hear Andy so strong taking on the favourite, or are you in agreement?
No, it's all about the price, like, and you know, this is the good thing about this meeting. And when you're looking for a betting angle, the bookmakers really haven't a clue what they're doing in terms of the proximity of the Mullins horses together. Like, and I remember yesterday's Jay, it's really interesting when JP has won in the race and Paul Townend's riding something else. You had Home My Lord and Tactical Move in the race, where Home My Lord was put in really hot favourite of the 2 initially, which I couldn't get my head around, and it completely flipped then by race time and Tactical Move won. And when you have a situation like this, granted Paul Townend may think he's on the right horse, but like he's alluded to this himself in his blog with Ladbrokes, that, you know, he's wary of this. And as Andy mentioned, the juvenile race, You maybe listened to this after the fact here, but the juvenile race for me was not as cut and dried either. And I think Paul Townend has pretty much alluded to this. Now, Ballyburn, his form ties in with my selection here, which is Daddy Longlegs, because they both beat Cletus Pulo. And now Cletus Pulo actually won a maiden hurdle during the week in impressive fashion. But for me, Daddy Longlegs by Almanzor, who had his big day when the Champion Stakes. I was lucky to be there that day. And forget about his run the last year, where he never went a yard. The ground was absolutely atrocious. When he won at Thurles, when he won at, wasn't it Thurles the day before, the ground was yielding. And he looked very impressive that day. Paul Townend is really gushing about him afterwards. I would literally put a line through his one the last of the ground. That's as bad as it gets at Leopardstown. The 27th heavy, practically unraceable, never went a yard. I expect him to bounce back here, and I expect Ballyburn, if Ballyburn was off even money or shorter, I'd be genuinely amazed. I will give a mention to Facile Mode as well. It would be about 66 to 1. Facile Mode ran behind Far and Glory in the Royal Bond, didn't run badly at all. He just come out of a maiden hurdle the last day at Leopardstown again. He kind of travelled okay to the second last, and the ground was so bad he couldn't pick up at all. You remember, like last year, there was a rumour he was going to be picked up by a big owner. I'm not sure what happened there, but he looked very impressive when he won his bumper. He, Tom Mullins was kind of gushing about it. He's another kind of flashy walk in the park, the lovely pedigree. I think he's going to outrun his odds, but I'm going to have my main bet here will be on Daddy Longlegs, who's one of two really good rides that Patrick Mullins rather has in the Grade 1 races on Sunday.
How many each way chances can you want? Another couple there to take on the favourite with Daddy Longlegs, 12 to 1 best price with Paddy's and the Betfair Sportsbook, 66 to 1 about Facile Mode if you do want to take a chance on the big price horse there. From Johnny. On to the Dublin Chase now, and El Fabiolo is the 4 to 11 favourite ahead of Dino Blue at 11 to 2. Gentleman to Me 8 to 1, 14 to 1. Captain Guinness. St. Roy is 66 to 1. And Johnny V's, it seems to be a bit of a trait of this year's DRF. These kind of trappy races with a hot pot, who everyone's looking forward to seeing out in front. Is it possible to pick any holes in El Fabiolo's chance, even at 4 to 11?
Well, he makes the odd mistake. To be fair, he's unbeaten over fences, and for whatever reason, maybe it's just a law of averages, he makes the odd mistake. I think Nicky Henderson's campaign of Constitution Hill is a bit of a joke, to be honest. I mean, Constitution Hill should be at Leopardstown, but to be fair to Nicky, he runs John Bon a little bit differently, and I think they actually were going to clash, obviously, in the Clarence House. It didn't work out. That's fine. And so this race is what it is, basically. It's kind of, we don't have any outstanding 2-mile chaser in Britain who could be here apart from John Bon, really, and it's still a good race. Captain Guinness, if he can get over, he was clinically abnormal, I think, the last. He's a good horse. Dino Blue's actually probably improving. I thought she was very good the last year, for all that the race kind of fell into her lap the way it was run, but El Fabiolo should win. He's by far the classiest of these. It's very hard to pick a hole in him, really, and he finds plenty for pressure if it does come to that. It'll be a no bet race for me, short of putting him into a double with something else. For the forecast, at the prices, I'd probably go with Captain Guinness. I think if he bounces back, he's pretty much every bit as good as Dino Blue.
So Captain Guinness, if you were to have a forecast here alongside the favourite El Fabiolo, would be, and there is 14 to 1 according to the two there, so there might be an each way angle, and also there is a without the market as well. So if you do want to back Captain Guinness without El Fabiolo, you'd be looking at 3 to 1. That's with Sky Bet. Andy, how would you play this?
Struggling really for inspiration here, because I'm not sure how the three JP Manis's horses are going to be ridden. I think there's one or two subplots as well further down the line, which make it a little bit harder to sort of get your head around, because there's no denying that El Fabiolo will win this and win it easily with the clear round. He's just totally different gear to this lot. But Dino Blue has obviously got two alternatives at the Cheltenham Festival. But mainly a target is the mare's race. And it's interesting that Limerick Lace is the main danger to Dino Blue, certainly on form anyway, as far as I could see, in the same colours. So not sure whether JP will run both of those against each other in the mare's chase, but only time will tell. And the other one is Saint-Noir, who got a very, very eye-catching ride, let's say, the other day in a handicap at Fairy House. And that has definitely been targeted, I think, for the Grand Annual at the Cheltenham Festival. He's got a mark 151, but they'd probably want to try and get that down some way. So keep an eye on how Jody McGarvey rides that. That's all I can say about that, because he's definitely got a ton of class wide. If he was in a Grand Annual off below 150, he could do some damage there. And I see bookmakers have already been alerted to that. I think he's 8 to 1 second favourite. So we're not looking at any fancy prices there. So it's more of a watching race for me, this. I'd be reluctant to put anything up as a bet, because, like I say, with three JP horses and you know, a short price favourite, it's not conducive to you know, betting like a trooper.
I think you've put that very well, Andy.
Right. Well, this is the oddschecker betting show, so it might be exciting to see what El Cabello does, but there's no bet. Let's move on. Let's find one. So we're going to go on to another race with a 3-1 favourite. That is the 245, the Irish Champion Hurdle, where Stateman will take on Impaire Et Passe. Stateman is the 3-on fav. Impaire Et Passe is 9-2. Bob Ollinger, the returning to former glory, Bob Ollinger is 11-1. Echoes and Rain 20-1, and Feed You Dairy 125-1. Now this is a pretty good renewal, this, Andy. So it's telling of Stateman's class that he's in at 3's on.
Yeah, I'd probably just take another chance at the prices here and back Impaire Et Passe each way, because he'll finish second of the favourite, so it's almost like a free bet. This race is going to set up exactly the same as it did the time before, almost identical. You've got Field de race likely to go off in front. Echoes and Rain will be dropped out towards the back. And then it's going to be a straight match between Impaire Et Passe and Stateman off the corner. I did notice Impaire Et Passe made a bad mistake at the second last as well, when he was still travelling equally as well as Stateman last time. And then he just couldn't quite pick up and match Stateman's turn of foot. But look, it's different ground, different track. I think this is on the, is this one on the inside track, is it, compared to the outside track last time? I think that might be the case. And I think it's significant that Willie Mullins is quite prepared to roll the dice again with Impaire Et Passe and let him have another go. But like I say, at the price is 3-1 on a 9-2. There's only one way you can play this for me, and that's back Impaire Et Passe each way. And I do think Stateman, actually, if he does win this, he's in a much more healthier position than he was this time last year to go and take on Constitution Hill. His numbers and just the way he's going through his races and finishing off his races have been a lot more impressive than they were last year. So, yeah, come the festival, it's not totally beyond the realms of possibility that Stateman will give Constitution Hill a little bit more of a race than he did last time out. But for betting purposes for this race, here looking at the odds, I'd have to stick up in Impaire Et Passe.
Do you think
each way?
Given that you obviously, you hold them both in high regard, like you can back Stateman and then Impaire Et Passe at kind of 100-30 and 10-1 non-run no bet for the Champion Hurdle. Given that we're not really seeing much of Constitution Hill, and as you said on the show yesterday, things do happen in jumps racing. Is that because it's hard to really imagine that even with Constitution Hill lining up, they're going to go off much bigger than that, and you're getting your each way place. And if something does happen, then you're going to be sitting on massive bets. Is there an angle there, or do you think it's just unbeatable?
Yeah, well, absolutely. Like I said, just looking at the times that Stateman and Impaire Et Passe did last time out, that's right up there with the best that they've ever achieved. Even in defeat, Impaire Et Passe went way past what he did last season. So he's definitely getting better as well. There's no doubt about that. And they've been steadfast, haven't they? The connections of Impaire Et Passe, they want to get to the Champion Hurdle and have a good crack. So, this is all part of his education, his progression. That was only his second run in his life against real, genuine, bona fide Grade 1 older horses at a novice company. So, you've got to give him the benefit of the doubt. Stateman's been doing it for the last 2-3 years. So, if there is more improvement to come, it's going to be from Impaire Et Passe, because we know what Stateman's all about.
Johnny, what do you reckon for this? Any angles, or if not, just you can talk around the qualities of the two and where you see them in terms of Constitution Hill come March. Next month. Wow.
Next month, yeah. Which is kind of why Mouse Morris was saying to me in an interview that we brought out sort of next month that he wasn't mad at running Gentleman's Games. He thinks it's too close to Cheltenham. Now that's kind of a fragile horse, so he's like, if anything goes wrong, there's a hiccup in the Gold Cup, we might have an issue here. But like Constitution Hill should be running here. The Impaire Et Passe conundrum is interesting because he's still going to be likely picking up a lot of money for finishing second. Maybe the owners don't care about that, but he's probably more of I don't know if they don't see him as a Stayers Hurdle horse, because that looks kind of a bit more viable. He's probably I can't really see how he beats Stateman, to be honest. Andy makes reference to the mistake, and I was very interested to see when he did kind of maybe as they were coming to the last year, what he was going to find. And Paul Townend just had everything covered. And Stateman's weird because if we didn't have Andy's times and the more technical aspects of it, and Constitution Hill weren't around, we'd be hailing one of the great 2-mile hurdlers, really, or certainly of our generation. But it just happens to be that, he's taken on, I don't know, possibly the best jumper ever or something like that. So it's unfortunate in that regard, but he's impossible to pick a hole in. Tactically, will anything different happen here? I mean, if you're riding Impaire Et Passe, which Darrell Jacob is, how do you get the favourite beaten? I'd probably not quite do the same as the last day if I were thinking that way. Bob Ollinger coming into it, for all that he's been kind of knocked, he actually has a very good win record, this horse, in various disciplines, from point and bumpers, hurdles, and even over fences. I still think this will be a bit of a test too far from, but for me, Stateman, that non-run no bet angle is absolutely, it makes perfect sense for Cheltenham. Like, how would you, if you were telling a mate in a pub that you'd offered a non-run no bet market in which you'd a 1-to-5 shot making the market 5 weeks out, he'd say you're absolutely mad. And that's what it is. So if Constitution Hill, who, let's be honest, has been treated as if he were, some sort of like actual, royalty that he'd barely get out of bed in the morning, maybe if something does go wrong, Stateman's going to be trees on.
Yeah, exactly. So would you take a chance now at the 130 run no bet?
Yeah, and obviously if you want to be filthy enough, you do it each way. But yeah, I still, you'd have to back that each way to make it thoroughly justifiable because of the place market aspect to it. But I'm just very disappointed. I don't see Michael Buckley and Nicky Henderson at this stage of their lives, if they're going to not go down the Gold Cup route with Constitution Hill, which I've absolutely no problem with. If you're not going down the chasing route, again, I would go chasing, but that's fine. What is the point in just running him a couple of times between the start of the season where he's 10s on and Cheltenham where he'll be 6s on or something like that? Like, I don't know. You if you're fortunate enough to have that amount of money and that amount of prestige, you have some. I think you have to give something back to the racing public, and they're not doing that here, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I totally agree. And interesting, especially with the owner having said in the past, the grand ambitions that he had for the horse. Hopefully, maybe in the future, we'll see more Constitution Hill. But we digress, and we should get back to Sunday's racing in the DRF, and we've got a more open race now in the Handicap Chase, which is the third last race in the card, the 320. And we've got, I know the way you're thinking, is the 6-to-1 favourite ahead of James de Burley at 13-2. Meeting of the Waters at 7-1. Heartwood 9-1. Percival Legalois is 12-1. Adamantly Chosen 16s. Classic Getaway 16s. Hollow Game 16s. Bustleton and others 20-1 and bigger. 25 in here. 7 places again from Skybet. A few others going 6. Johnny, how do you make sense of this one?
Yeah, the bookmakers here are trying to price up. I know the way you're thinking. Is going to be in for Cheltenham, to be honest. That's kind of my ambition. I don't like backing McManus horses on handicap debut. That could be absolute waffle. I just don't. And the more it goes on, the more I actually agree that I'm doing the right thing. James de Burley for me he's getting trimmed a little bit since I sort of did my recording or did my prep for this. But if you watch his run behind Meeting of the Waters, the last day Darrell Jacob rode and he came up the inner. He was actually travelling. He was pretty much the last horse off it, along with Meeting of the Waters. He had a big swing in the weights here. He only got a pound. He didn't get the trip on the day, the extended 3. He's only gotten a pound. Paul Townend rides him. He's quite a straightforward horse to ride, this fella. And I think with those places, just looking at what are we here with Sky, but 11-2, 7 places, 6 places with Hills, no issue with that. Meeting of the Waters, who was obviously entered up at Naas in graded company and had some other entries. It's interesting that he goes here 15 pounds higher than he won at Leopardstown. To be honest, at 7-1 though, I'd still be wary of taking him on at 7s because he's a bit of a blank canvas the way he did it that day, beating Panda Boy, who may or may not have boosted the form by now. But yeah, I do like James of Early in terms of those E-Trip places. He's a straightforward horse. I think he'll stay out of trouble. This trip is better for him. Classic Getaway stalemate isn't out of it either.
Andy, how about yourself?
Yeah, I think this is probably one of the most fascinating races of the entire weekend. Not only to watch on Sunday itself, but to sort of make notes for going forward, because the plan is obviously with Meeting of the Waters, the Grand National. They've had a multitude of options in the last month or so since they won the Paddy Power, and they've refused them. I think he was down to running Weatherby the other week, and they pulled him out. Whether it was a count of the ground or not, I don't know. But I think they're absolutely frightened to death of picking up more weight than what they've got, or going up in the ratings. He's 145, but they don't want to go over 150. So,
and that's as well, Andy. The hood. What do you make of the hood? Because the hood on here, and the hood was declared at Naas as well.
Yeah, he has been a bit free in his races. He was free the day when he won at Cork, and he was a little bit keen, to be fair, in the Paddy Power as well. So that might be just a pacifier to kind of like get him to settle a little bit better. But I don't think they'll be wanting to burst 145 too readily. If he does win this, he's going to go, more 155 than 145. So I'd always have that slightly in the back of my mind. I agree. I know the way you're thinking. He's caught the eye every single time he's run over fences, and there's definitely a big handicap in him. Whether this is the one, I don't know, but I agree with you. I think James de Burley here is almost certain to be bang there. He rode his own boat for a long time, didn't he, in the Paddy Power, and he just got a little bit tired over that 3 miles, but it was a punishing race. The time figure was one of the best figures over the entire 4 days festival at Christmas, and that was thanks to James de Burley and the fact that he went so hard. And he just got picked off by stronger stars like Meeting the Waters and Panda Boy, who are, genuine sort of Grand National contenders. But you could ride him a little bit more aggressively over 2 mile 5 and not expect him to stop. So I do think that he'll be bang there, and I don't think they're necessarily thinking with him. Cheltenham with him, one of the handicaps. I don't think there's like an ulterior motive with him. And I think you've also got to mention Hartwood as well. He's finished second to Grangeclare West and Blood Destiny on his first 2 runs, and he's got in here off a mark of 136. Now, if you think that, you're thinking and Meeting the Waters are well handicapped, well, what does this make this fella? He just basically couldn't live with Blood Destiny, who absolutely flew round Naas when he won on his chasing debut. And he's an out-and-out 2-miler, and Hartwood isn't. So I do think Hartwood is also another one to factor in. So looking at the prices and looking at what Johnny said about, I know the way you're thinking, McManus, handicap away from Cheltenham, Meeting the Waters, knowing how Paul Byrne works and operates, will they want to be all guns blazing to win with him and ruin a potential Grand National handicap mark? I'd probably go with the other 2, who are equally well handicapped and suitable to this kind of race. So I'd go James de Burley at 13-2 and Hartwood at a standout 9-1.
Yeah, both those prices with Bet365, who are a 5th to 6th places there, 13-2, James de Burley and Hartwood 9-1. 2 more races on the card. Got the Handicap Hurdle, now the listed race over 2 miles. Magical Zoe is a 13-2 favourite, ahead of Attaboy Charlie 7-1, Antobar 8-1, Zenta and One Last Tango both 10-1, 12-1 Common Practice, and Bialy Stock 16-1 bar. Those again. We've got 22 in here, a couple of firms, 365 and Skybet going 6 places. Andy, how do you see this?
Yeah, it's interesting that Willie Mullins has pulled the plug on Zenta. She looked a really good juvenile last year, won the Grady race at Aintree, but then they decided to go chasing with her. And of what I saw of her on a chasing debut at Cork, it was a perfectly respectable run. But ultimately, it wasn't one that filled you with a whole heap of sort of confidence going forward. She was a little bit hit and miss here, there, and everywhere. Maybe a little bit rusty, but as a piece of form stands, it couldn't have worked out any better. Silent Approach ran really well next time out against the boys. Harmonia Maker went on to beat Hortier after finishing down the field behind the same horse at Limerick. And Zenta was sandwiched somewhere in between. So she didn't run that badly, actually, on the face of it. I know she goes back over hurdles, which I think is much more suitable to her makeup. She gets an up 138, which I think is workable. So I definitely have her on my shortlist. And I think you've got to factor in Attaboy Charlie as well. Oh, I thought bolted up here last time out. He'd run in 3 or 4 maiden hurdles to get a mark. He got in off 111 and he made light work of that. And again, he clocked a really good time figure when he won that day. Beat 23 runners, so he's used to running in big field handicaps. The 4th horse of Joseph O'Brien's ran nicely out of that race of the day on ground that wouldn't have been suitable for him at Punchestown. So I think that form's all right as well. So again, I'll probably look at those 2, Zenta and course and distance winner Attaboy Charlie.
Yeah, Zenta 10-1 with 365 Bet Victor and Coral 365 6 places. Attaboy Charlie 7-1 Bet Victor, Coral Quinn, Bet, Ladbrokes, and Bet Goodwin. You need 13-2 if you want to take the 6th place in Sky Bet and 365. Johnny?
Yeah, this is my bet of the day, Attaboy Charlie. I see Black Bamboo as well, who was 6th. He's due to run at 3 o'clock on Saturdays. Keep an eye out for that form. Just if you look back on his earlier form as well, when he was second to Waterford Whisperers, first time out at Galway, that was only in October. Waterford Whisperers had already had a run, subsequently won a maiden hurdle and ran very well here off a decent mark the last day. If you watch his run, I make this point again. If you're a handicap debutant running in a 23-runner handicap hurdle at Leopardstown with no handicap experience, I think it's a hell of an ask. And JJ Slevin rode the horse kind of as if, I don't know if you were very confident that he had a bit in hand or what, but when he came on, like from the sort of out of the back straight, he came way around the houses, like, I'm going to stay out of trouble here. The horse just absolutely, he was cantering. He came to the last. He only ended up winning by less than 2 lengths. Well, I thought his superiority was pretty dramatic. Eddie Cawley's had a brilliant campaign. He's had, I presume he's been laid out for this race now. He's, back to, he said it was a dream to have a winner at Leopardstown the last day, so it was a dream to have a winner at the Christmas Festival. But clearly they would have looked at this straight away and said, okay, what's he going to get? Is he going to get in? He's getting in 10 stone 4. He got 12 pounds. I think that's absolutely fine. 7-1 for a horse with so much upside in terms of his ability. Now he travels in the race. JJ Slevin riding really well. He's going to have a big weekend. How is he going to ride in this time? Probably maybe with a little bit more kind of, I suppose, maybe an aversion to going as wide, because he'll be able to sort of track a passage, and he's more confidence in the horse's jumping ability. They school him very hard. But so like with the each way places, again, I'm looking at 7s here. That for me would be the bet of the weekend. So we've nearly had to wait for last to get it.
Attaboy Charlie, bet of the weekend for Johnny there in the penultimate race on the card at the DRF on Sunday. Finally, we have the bumper, the mare's bumper, with Aurora Vega, 7-4 favourite, ahead of Mongebello at 11-2. Fleur et Fusil is 7-1. Femme Magnifique is 8-1. Baby Kate 9-1. Barna Hash Primrose 11-1. 20-1 bar those. Johnny, any view in the mare's bumper in the last race of the day?
I was putting up Fleur Fazil at 14s. That price has been half now, so that takes that angle away. She was quite keen at Naas, or at Navan rather. She kind of carried Jodie to the front. Jodie was saying afterwards that she just was a bit strong. I think she's very powerful. Generally, when you have a horse with the profile of Aurora Vega, it's probably you're not going to get value on her for all that. I thought her performance at Gorn was quite exceptional. Sharp Object's not a bad horse. Was a bumper winner prior to that. And Aurora Vega, walking the park out of Quevega, obviously she's very exciting. But with that market move, Willie has so many in the race. This isn't a race I'd be getting involved in, to be honest. Hollybrook, I should mention as well, just the fact that just looking at the prices here, 16-20. Charlie Swan riding. Gordon Ellis is a really powerful horse in the bumper division. I'm a big fan of Mount Nelson. She's a lovely pedigree. She won a point to point, but I wouldn't be discounting her considering Harry is riding her.
Andy, how about yourself in the last race of the weekend?
Yeah, this is the kind of race that I'd probably be more than happy to swerve. But I was quite taken with that Fleur Fuzel. I don't watch as many bumpers perhaps what I should do. I watch all the replays, but I don't tend to watch them live. But I actually did watch that one live, and it was noticeable the way they rode her. They rode her with a degree of patience, and they try to switch you off. And when you get horses that are fairly keen and they want to get on with it, sometimes their finishing effort can be compromised. So I always make a note of horses that finish off their races when they have pulled hard, because they're obviously very, very good. Only the good ones are capable of doing that. And Flora Fuzel physically looks a nice horse as well. So I would probably have half a look at her as well if the market spoke favourably of her. But by the sound of it, all the shrewdest, far shrewder than me, have got all the fancy prices about it.
It's that way, yeah. 7-1 best price now. That is with Bet365. Thank you very much to both Andy and to Johnny for taking time out of their busy schedule. Johnny, have a great weekend away on holiday. Andy, have a good weekend watching the racing. But yeah, thank you guys as ever for showing your tips and insight with us ahead of the DRF. Should be a great weekend's racing. A great weekend sport. Make sure you download the oddschecker app where you can find the best prices, bookie offers, free bets, and plenty more up there, including Andy's tips every day of racing. But most importantly, make sure you enjoy the racing and please ensure that you gamble responsibly.